Today, when my alarm went off, I had a decision to make. I had to decide whether to run or to not run. And when I rolled over and checked my phone and saw that it was 6 degrees outside, it became much less inviting to get out here and run. But obviously, I chose to run. And while that decision might seem simple and borderline insignificant because we make hundreds, if not thousands of decisions like this every day, if we stop and contemplate the weight that every decision holds, we'll realize that every decision for something is also against something else. And while that might seem simple, like I can't run this morning and also not run this morning. And that might seem obvious because it is, but it's also profound because it is the little decisions that we make every day that change the trajectory of our lives in a way that is much more impactful than any single decision ever could. And so that idea begs the questions, what decisions are you making on a daily basis that are changing your trajectory? And are those decisions in line with your priorities and values? Time is a limited resource, as is our attention and our energy. And so when we stop to realize that, it can feel overwhelming to decide how to spend those limited resources. And that's why we, as humans, don't really like that freedom. We are constantly outsourcing our decision making. That's why we establish routines, develop habits, and adopt dogmatic worldviews. All of those are ways of outsourcing our decision-making responsibility. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said that we as humans are condemned to be free. I did a whole video on why humans hate freedom, and I'll link that in the description if you're interested in watching that. But anyways, as we stop to think about these decisions that we're making on a daily basis, it can feel overwhelming. Because, for example, my decision to run this morning was also a decision to not sleep in, to not wake up and read, to not work, to not do strength training, to not meditate, to not run away to Mexico. There is an infinite number of other decisions that I could have made this morning. And so that decision to get up and run can feel overwhelming. The weight of responsibility of that decision can weigh heavy on us. And that's just a basically insignificant decision that I made this morning to run. Now, think about the bigger decisions that we spend weeks or months contemplating, like whether to get a new job or to move to a different state or to end a relationship. Those decisions feel even more monumental. And while these big decisions and even the little decisions can feel overwhelming, it might be helpful to remember that as long as we decide to continue living, everything else can be modified. Nothing else is permanent. We can always redo or undo or modify the direction we're headed. I guess what I'm trying to say with all of this is that it is important to remember that no decision we make is as permanent as we might think it is. And it is the little decisions that we make every single day that are going to determine the trajectory of our lives more than any single decision ever will. All of the little decisions that we make are affirmations of something, and we need to make sure that those affirmations line up with our priorities and our values so that we are consciously aware of the direction we're headed. So we don't get somewhere and realize that we never really decided to go that way. Because our life ends up being a massive mosaic of all of these small decisions that make up the big picture of what our life is. At the end of the day, we might know consequences, and that's helpful to remember, but we can't tell the future. We don't know the full outcome of the decisions we make. And it has been my experience that embracing that uncertainty is what gives life its depth and its meaning. I know this topic is a little abstract, but as far as I can tell, there is beauty in embracing the uncertainty of life and worrying less about the decisions that we perceive as big and life-changing, and focusing more on the seemingly insignificant day-to-day decisions that will ultimately determine the trajectory and the path that we are on. I hope that was thought-provoking or interesting in any way. If it was, stick around. I'll catch you in the next video.